All right, so welcome to the first episode of the Wrestling Podcast. Name is a working title at the moment, but this is the first episode of the pilot series of this. So, yeah, this is the first episode of the pilot series of our Wrestling Podcast. We are talking TLC today. I'm joined by the Wigman, uh,
Hello.
Sh- Sean. Sean Avery is also going to be joining us as a regular. He is just unavailable today. Um, but yeah, we are talking TLC. Overall, I think it was. I mean, it was pretty good.
I thought it was a
What
pretty
did you think?
decent show. I think for sure one of the best of WWE that they've produced this year.
Yeah, especially with a few things that happened that we'll get into. But yeah, I would agree. We were talking about it yesterday. I feel like it's for like out of a 10 rating for me, it's like a 6, 7, something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking more so like a 7, which is like a good rating for me.
Yeah, considering a lot of pay-per-views were left with like 3, 4, some
Yeah,
low thing. Um, but let's jump into it, shall we?
let's
So,
do it.
so we're gonna start by talking about what we were left with at the very end of the show. Uh, it was the Firefly Inferno match between Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt, the Fiend. Uh, we pretty much witnessed a murder happen on screen. With
hmm
Randy Orton dousing the entire body of the Fiend in gasoline and then lighting him on fire. So that has left the wrestling world asking, and ourselves asking, what do you think WWE will do with the Fiend moving forward? So Max, I ask you that first, and what do you think? What do you think is going to happen with the Fiend moving forward?
Okay, so realistically, I don't think the Fiend is gonna be gone forever. I think he should at least stay away from WWE programming until the road to WrestleMania. Because if the Undertaker has proven time and time again, if you kill him, will come back. So I feel like this isn't the end of the Fiend, but maybe we'll see like an alteration to the character going forward.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think the Fiend. Well, I mean, with this build, they've they've made it seem like Bray Wyatt, like Mr. Rogers, Bray Wyatt, and the Fiend are not the same person.
Uh-huh.
They're two different entities here, and I think that like yes, we have seen the Fiend pretty much get killed off,
Oh, 100%.
and I mean, for those who don't know, I love Bray Wyatt's character. I love the Fiend. I love everything about it. This is some of the best work he's done. I love the addition of Alexa Bliss. I think she is doing amazing things for the character as well. But if they don't keep him off of TV for at least a few months, I feel as though the ending that we were left with suddenly becomes so much less of an impact than it was.
Yeah, 100%. I would like to add to that saying I feel like the way WWE can be satisfied with like their like I think the way they can make this work is by still keeping Alexa Bliss on programming just to keep the Fiend's presence on Raw without actually having him there. And I think we can just like through backstage segments or just the interactions, the Alexa Bliss can just act like 100% in denial about the Fiend being gone forever, and then eventually work that into bringing him back.
That is an interesting point. Um, for that point, I feel like I'm actually going to disagree with you.
Oh, okay.
I think that because Alexa is driven so much with the Fiend at this point that I feel keeping her off camera for now might actually be more beneficial than anything else.
Okay. I I would agree with that point in somewhat, but I do feel like before the Fiend comes back, bring Alexa Bliss back first,
Yes,
and then build up to it.
yes, I definitely agree there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, but other than that, that was a shock ending because
Oh yeah.
I don't think we've ever seen something like that
Oh yeah.
ever.
It felt like it came straight out of a horror film.
I feel like that's what they were going for.
Yeah. Also, is it just me or does Randy Orton now have the highest kill count in WWE?
Easily. He's killed so many people.
He killed the Undertaker at one point. What was it? He killed every fan's spirit when he said that Eddie Guerrero promo thing, and now he killed the Fiend.
Yeah, he's just going for the throat.
Also, all
He
the
does that.
attempted murders with the punt stuff in 2009.
Oh yeah. And when he almost like I mean this was like RVD selling it, but when he like took that one DDT where it looked like he pretty much broke Rob Van Dam's neck.
Yeah, that was pretty
You know what I'm
scary.
talking about? Yeah, that was crazy. Um, but yeah, uh, Fiend needs to be off TV for a little while. I have also before we move on, just one more side question.
Oh yeah.
Do you think do you think that they would bring him back for Mania?
Yes, I definitely agree with that. I kind of want them to, and this is just a little personal booking, but I would really like for him to come back and face Jeff Hardy and do this like cinematic Firefly Funhouse match like he did with Cena last year. Just because I feel like
Yeah,
those personalities would mesh so well together.
that would be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, I don't know if they should bring him back for Mania. I just want to know how you're going to justify bringing him back after what we witnessed on
Mm-hmm.
TV.
Honestly, I feel like they're not gonna justify anything. I feel like, bam, the Fiend is back. And like, how
Oh,
did he come back? Considering how they
oh,
always explain the Undertaker coming back to life with all of his deaths.
yeah. We'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So moving on, we're gonna go back to the start of the card and work our way forward from there. So at the beginning of the show, we saw Drew McIntyre defending the WWE Championship against AJ Styles in a TLC match. Drew ended up winning the match, and it ended up becoming a triple threat match
Oh yeah.
toward the end of it. We'll get to that in a second. But first of all, let's talk about the current WWE Champion, Drew McIntyre. Where does Drew go from here? What is next for Drew McIntyre?
Well, for me, I don't think his feud with AJ and The Miz is quite over just yet. I do think it's gonna carry over into the Royal Rumble, where we can see a proper triple threat, or maybe a fatal four way with Keith Lee being implemented into the story, considering how this last week on Raw he was fighting The Miz and Morrison, and even after the finish of the match, Keith Lee still seemed pretty angry with the duo, and I feel like that might be inserted into this feud, but who knows?
Hmm. I didn't actually think about that. I didn't think about the possibility of Keith being added into the equation. For me, I actually don't think that they're gonna go that direction. With keeping Miz and Morrison in this conversation.
Oh, okay.
Uh, Reason being is just because of the way it ended,
Because of the way he
right?
lost.
Because of the way everybody lost. Like you
Oh,
think
okay.
about it, like Miz comes down for the cash in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that happens is almost drops him through a table and then almost chases Morrison away.
Mm-hmm.
It almost feels like this is now breaking off into an AJ Styles and Omos versus Miz and Morrison feud.
I actually didn't think about that. That actually makes a lot of sense, really.
Yeah, that was where my mind went to first. So in terms of that grouping, that's where I think they're going with that.
Mm-hmm.
My immediate answer for what's next for McIntyre, I don't know who's in the pipeline for the Royal Rumble, but the bigger long-term answer is Drew versus Sheamus.
Mm-hmm.
That I feel like there's too many pieces in the air to not go that direction. I just feel like there's a lot of setup being involved in this
Mm-hmm.
to not go that way. So that's where I'm
Yeah.
leaning.
And then to add an additional point, I do agree with that booking. Like down the pipeline, I think it's either gonna be Drew versus Sheamus at Mania, or Drew versus Keith Lee. And the reason I think maybe Drew versus Keith Lee is that I don't think WWE. I think WWE is really itching to pull the trigger on that Sheamus heel turn like immediately and just have the feud like now on the road at the Royal Rumble, and then build someone else up to face Drew at Mania.
Yeah,
But it's really either or.
I definitely could see them wanting to pull that trigger really soon. If I was them, I would definitely wait on that because I think Sheamus and Drew could give a really good Mania match if you give them the opportunity.
Oh, I totally agree.
Um, so now let's transition to the other part of this match. 2/3 of the way down, the Miz and Morrison run down, and Miz officially cashes in his Money in the Bank contract and fails the cash in. I believe this would mark the fourth failed cash in
I
company history behind Cena, Corbin, and Sandow.
oh wait, no, I think it would be five then because Strowman also failed.
Oh yeah, that's right. The Hell in a Cell.
Yeah,
Oh, I forgot about that. That's
yeah.
right. Okay, so this makes the
On a small tangent, now the Strowman cash in is probably the worst one, in my opinion. Just a little small
oh
tangent
by far, by far.
there. Mm-hmm.
Double DQ, no
Oh
contest,
no,
Hell in a Cell match. Come on.
honestly.
Oh. Anyway, that's neither here nor there for
Yeah.
right now. That's a conversation for another day. Um, so Miz becomes the fifth man to fail the cash in. Um, so the question becomes, how would you have booked this cash in differently? And for me, here's how I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have Miz still come down during this event
Okay.
and cash it in and win.
Oh.
I'd have him if they were going to pull the trigger on it, because my thing is we spent we had this storyline with Miz and Morrison and Heavy Machinery that ultimately led to Miz taking the briefcase from Otis.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if you're going to have the briefcase change hands, whoever is the next person to get it should probably be the one to get the title.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So with that, I feel like if they were going to do it, this was a good time to do it, considering how much AJ worked over Drew's legs, how many bumps AJ took in this match. Like when they ran down, there was a perfect opportunity to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I would have had Miz win the match here, and I believe if the cash in had happened differently, Miz is WWE champion right now, but I don't believe he is WWE champion heading into WrestleMania.
Oh.
I believe that the build from here to the Rumble would be Miz versus McIntyre. The match at the Rumble ends with a no finish
Oh.
because of AJ and Omos's interference, which brings down Morrison, which also brings in Sheamus to even the odds at 2-2-2
Mm-hmm.
for the sides. And then in classic fast lane tradition of doing a six-pack challenge,
Oh, okay.
We do a 6-pack challenge with Miz as the defending champion, with the 5 challengers being John Morrison, AJ Styles, Omos, Drew
Almost.
McIntyre, and Sheamus. And you put the 6 of them in the match, and that's where Sheamus's heel turn hits. He turns heel on Drew, pins Drew. Sheamus becomes WWE champion, and that sets up Sheamus versus McIntyre for WrestleMania, where Drew becomes 3-time WWE champion. That eliminates the whole like drop the belt, lose the belt right back to the guy you took it from a week later type of thing.
Yeah.
It gives Miz a little bit of time with it, still knowing he's the transitional champion, and you get the Sheamus heel turn, and then you can still build AJ and Omos versus Miz and Morrison if that's the direction they're going to go.
Mm. I love the fact that almost his first match would have been a WWE Championship match.
I mean, hey, like give the young guy obviously he's there to basically like
Boost numbers.
yeah, to be that 6th man because he just happens to be at the right place at the right time.
Okay.
But if you're going to go with him down the line, it's a good opportunity to give him a chance to work with some really established vets. So I feel like that would actually be really beneficial for him down the line.
Uh-huh.
So how would you have done this differently?
Last night I would have not had the Miz cash in at all. I would actually just save that for much later. But I would still have Drew beat AJ, and then have that lead into possibly a rematch at the Rumble because WWE likes redoing matches a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
then on the road to Mania, you have Sheamus versus Drew with Sheamus wanting to enter the Rumble to face Drew, which he doesn't tell Drew. But then Sheamus loses the Rumble to somebody else who I will say later, and on the Raw after the Rumble, Sheamus would turn heel on Drew, then building up their title match for WrestleMania. And then after WrestleMania, specifically the Raw after Mania, The Miz would cash in the belt and win the WWE Championship. And the way I would do it is like have The Miz retain against Drew McIntyre via screwy circumstances with the help of Morrison at the next pay per
Mm-hmm.
view, and then have The Miz drop it to somebody else that's not Drew. And in that way, you could have Drew have a proper second reign with the belt, and not have any like small like inconsequential reigns like the one that Randy Orton just had. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like everybody would win there.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So you're saying Drew beats Sheamus then at Mania?
Oh yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Because the statute of limitations on that Money in the Bank wouldn't be up until June,
yeah. At the very least,
I
it's like
think.
they're cutting close to the deadline, so that's why it's like Miz just barely is able to cash it in without making it like I don't know illegal or something.
Yeah, like real under the wire.
Mm-hmm. And plus, I don't feel
Yeah.
like WWE would want to put the title belt on Sheamus again, just because of all his other reigns weren't that good.
His first one was okay. His second one, in my opinion, not as good.
Honestly, yeah, what hampered his second reign? Just to say it real quick, I feel like the his reign was hampered because of the Nexus and all the interferences in those matches that he
Yeah.
had. But that's here or there.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are two very interesting scenarios. I'm definitely interested to see the fallout tonight up from this and where they're actually going to end up going with it. But now I want to know where we're going with something else because last night, finally, the wrestling gods shine down upon Sasha Banks and they allowed her to retain her title on pay-per-view against Carmella. I was Team Carmella, but I am very happy to be wrong. You were for Sasha.
And I'm so
Um,
happy that she did win.
oh my god, dude! Like I said,
It
I
was a
have never been so happy to be wrong.
it was a victory for everybody except for Carmella.
Yes, but oh man, did she need that? Did she need that win more than anybody else?
True.
Um, so um, the big question here now is: do you think the company is finally going to go with her, giving her a big title run? Can she retain 2 pay-per-views in a row? Like, is it finally Sasha Banks' time to really be pushed as like the top woman for the brand?
Funny enough, I do think that even though she had this big victory, finally has that number one on the defense list, I still think it can go 50-50 with how WWE is going to book this, honestly. But I do think WWE has a little more faith in Sasha now, considering where all the other 4 horsewomen are within the company, considering Becky is
Mm-hmm.
on maternal leave, Charlotte's on a babyface on Raw, and Bailey just had the long heel run with the belt that I feel like they're gonna want to build Sasha as the big female face on SmackDown. And considering she has all this mainstream attention with her appearances on The Mandalorian, I don't. I feel like WWE would just want to promote Sasha as like this top like babyface champion on SmackDown. But honestly, she could still end up dropping it this SmackDown for all we know.
Driving it on SmackDown?
Well, at least like on SmackDown or any random SmackDown or the next pay per view, even if I do think WWE has more faith in her, it could still happen because it's Sasha Banks.
Yeah. I do agree that it could be 50-50. Um, nothing against Sasha Banks. Like she's very good in the ring,
Very
but she's
exceptional.
just been booked to hell. Like it her the biggest problem with her on the main roster isn't even her fault. It's the way she's been booked.
Mm-hmm.
And that has definitely been a hindrance for her career thus far. And so, do I think they're going to go with her? I want to say yes, but I don't know. Can she retain the belt twice in a row, like 2 pay-per-views in a row? That my answer to that highly hinges on who she's got next.
Mm-hmm.
If she faces Carmella again, the answer is no. I
Oh.
see if they rematch, Mella takes the belt. If it's not Carmella, Sasha keeps the belt.
Mm.
Because I feel like that match toward the end there, it got really close. We weren't sure if it could go which way it was going to end up going.
Mm.
So I feel like if they're going to do that match again, then they'll pull the trigger on it because I feel like a lot of people are liking this new gimmick.
With Carmella.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What was it? What was I gonna say real quick? Honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that we're on the road to WrestleMania, I would say that Sasha would be retaining more and more. But since like WWE is known to pull a lot of swerves and like plot twists on the road to WrestleMania, who knows whether or not she'll retain? But I really hope she does.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope she does too because I'd like her. I feel like this run needs to be long to reestablish the credibility she
Mm-hmm.
once had. And I mean, this was good. This was a very good
Good start.
decision, but it has to continue from here now,
Yeah.
or else, oh man, or else she's done.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, go to NXT, go back.
Which I wouldn't be against, considering her only good reign prior to this was the NXT Women's Championship.
Yeah, that was like her last like
It was her
good
first
run.
and last good run.
Yeah, because her 4 before this, even her women's tag run wasn't even that good.
Not
And
really.
again, that's not even their fault. That's just the booking.
Honestly.
All right.
100%.
Well, good for Sasha. I do hope she's got a near future, a long future with this belt. And speaking of the future of, I guess just wrestling right now. Uh, Last night we saw the Raw Tag Team Championships. I'm sorry, change hands as Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods lost the titles to the Hurt Business, Cedric Alexander, and Shelton Benjamin.
Hmm.
Um, but the end of the match kind of gave, like, cause for pause because of the way Cedric kind of self-tagged in, and I guess for a lack of better phrasing, stole the pinfall from Shelton to win the belts. So it kind of hinted a little bit, not too much, but a little hint that there could be a future implosion of the group.
Mm.
So do you think there is a future implosion for the Hurt Business, and is Cedric the key to that breakup?
Okay. So as the key to eventually breaking up the Hurt Business, I think no. But as the person to dethrone Bobby Lashley of the United States Championship, I'm thinking maybe yes. So the reason I say that is like I think for Cedric dethroning Lashley, that's gonna come much later, like within the long term. For right now, I think WWE is gonna want to have Riddle beat Lashley for the belt, like I think probably at the Rumble, and keep it for like a short run before giving it back to Lashley, and then in the meantime, we just start continue sowing and growing the seeds for Cedric eventually splitting away from the group so that he can challenge Lashley for the belt probably after Mania, because I feel like Vince would like Lashley to have a big win at WrestleMania, and you can use that big win to win back the U.S. title, and then for after Mania, we can have Cedric versus Lashley as the U.S. title program going forward,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I see it.
All right. Um. So for me, I do see an implosion happening, but I don't see it happening as soon as you think it is going to happen.
Oh.
I think they're gonna run with this group, booking them strong through Mania.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think the opposite. I think that Lashley could hold that belt through to Mania, and at Mania drop the belt to Riddle.
Yeah.
Like that could be where they go there. But in terms of the group uh breaking apart, I don't see that until post Mania.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my take on it. Um but I do think Cedric is the key to it. I think he's going to be the one to eventually turn. I don't know how or on who, but I feel like that's going to be the play.
Yeah.
Um, who was this win most important for? Was it most important for Cedric? Was it most important for Shelton, MVP? Who
One.
do you think?
100% Cedric Alexander. I am ecstatic that Cedric is getting the success that he deserves. And I'm also happy for Shelton for getting to be a champion again, because I think the last belt he really held was the U.S. title, like in 2008.
Wow.
So I'm glad that the Hurt Business is like, and I think it's also beneficial to the Hurt Business as a whole, because I think they now look like a legitimate stable now that they
hmm
hold all the gold, so to speak.
I do agree with them getting all of the gold makes them a legit stable.
Mm.
But I had a feeling you were gonna say Cedric, so I was like, I feel like I'm not trying to take anything away from him. Like, it's a great win.
Yeah.
for him because he's been since he came over from 205, it hasn't been the run we were all expecting it was going to be.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we all had really high hopes for him when he first came up from that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but my answer is I think it was best for MVP. Actually, I think MVP with him with those two winning the belts and Bobby Lashley winning the belts, he has now established himself as a very good manager, and he has now got the proof of, hey, if you come on to the Hurt Business, look at it right here. We have all of this gold. This is what it can be for you too if you come on with us. So I think this win was most beneficial for really establishing MVP and the Hurt Business, but
Oh,
primarily this is the best for MVP because he's the leader of the group
he's
that
the
doesn't
linchpin
need
of
a
all
belt,
this.
and he's all about trying to make his guys look good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think MVP is definitely the one who benefits from this the most.
Oh yeah. So I think I just want to tangent like real quick. Looking back at
Mm-hmm.
this year and how like most people would say the biggest and most impactful return was Edge, but you can also make an argument for MVP considering MVP's return led to the Hurt Business and led to the success for Cedric and Shelton, and especially for Lashley and getting him out of the Lana storyline. So I feel
Oh
like
my
you can
god.
probably say MVP's return to WWE has been like the most impactful out of any other return.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's funny because he comes back at the Rumble, but he was in the match for like 30 seconds.
Got
He
destroyed
was
by
just he
Lesnar.
was just a Lesnar toss.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's good that he's like really recovered from that,
Mm-hmm.
but you think they would have maybe done more with him and maybe had him come back later in the match post Drew eliminating him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from with him having one of the more impactful returns of this year
Mm-hmm.
for sure. All right. So, speaking of impactful returns, last night we saw the women's tag team championships change hands. The defending champions were Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler going up against Asuka and a mystery partner. And we got the return of Charlotte Flair.
Woo!
um, um, with that, uh, let's start simple with this. Do you like the change? Do you like the title change?
Okay, so I'm probably going to be in the minority saying that I think it was probably a good thing to get the belts off of Shayna and
Wow.
Nia. Well, hold on. Put down your pitchforks. Uh, I think it
All
was
right.
good to get the belts off of them mainly because there was no other credible challengers for the belts, and I just feel like with this super team of Asuka and Charlotte, it was good to get the belts off of them. I do think it's
Mm-hmm.
bad in the sense of the team that won it, and just in the fact that there's no actual team, like there's no real teams in this division at all.
Very true.
And I do hope that through this title change, Asuka and Charlotte are gonna, well, they're in fact gonna drop the belts probably real soon. But I hope they can drop the belts to a real team, you know, or at least WWE can build a real team and just give it to them and have an actual team hold the belts instead of just Shayna and Nia.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming
I
from.
yeah. So I disagree.
No, of course.
I don't. I don't like it. I think. Yeah, I just don't like it. I feel like when Charlotte came out last night, as soon as that music hit, I was like, oh, we're they're not losing. There's no way in hell they're losing. They're not gonna make Asuka take a pin, and they're certainly not gonna make Flair take a pin.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, I was like, I'm not a fan of double champions.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Um, and now that Asuka is a double champion, where does this leave the women's division on Raw? I for me, I feel like because of this double change, they've kind of booked themselves in a corner.
Mm-hmm.
They have Charlotte. Like if you look at the Raw roster, Raw female division, I don't know all of them offhand, but I know the best ones on the division are Asuka, Charlotte, who are now tag team champion and Raw women's champion, Becky, who's on
Oh, I
sabbatical.
miss Becky.
I know.
Damn.
Ah, when that music hits on her return, oh man,
Damn. And to
thank
think
you.
everybody was just tired of Becky back then. God damn it.
Yeah, her. But now that she's been gone for so long,
The absence
like,
just feels it's so visible to the even to the naked eye.
yeah. And when she comes back, it's gonna be like, thank you,
The man has
thank
returned.
God she's back.
A man returns to save the women's division.
Yeah. Um. So Asuka, Charlotte, Becky, Shayna, who's now freed up, and Bliss, but she's doing Fiend things.
Yeah.
Other than that, oh man, this is
Very
a
fiendish
scarce
thing.
division. So now you have to, you're pretty much, by putting all of the gold on these two, you kind of are telling the rest of the roster, like, hey,
You don't matter.
we believe in them. Y'all need to pick it up.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I don't know what they do. I really think they're in a corner, and I don't know how you escape from this. What about you?
Uh, yeah, same here. I do think that they really did have booked themselves in a corner because the women's style division is now really just four people, and of those potential matchups, I really strongly would want Asuka to face Shayna at the Rumble. And then you
Mm-hmm.
can have, because right now, Asuka and Charlotte are tag team partners, and Charlotte is a baby face. So let's just stick with that, as very dismaying as it may be, and just have Asuka face Shayna at the Rumble. And then you can have Charlotte enter the Rumble, just because she's a baby face, she wants to win, go to WrestleMania, but then she loses at the Rumble to hopefully Rhea Ripley, and then that will be the seeds for Charlotte's heel turn, because now she's lost the opportunity to main event WrestleMania, so to speak, and then she turned heel on her tag partner Asuka, with eventually Asuka beating Charlotte, and then just getting rid of Charlotte from that title division right now.
Just get rid of her
Just
altogether.
get out.
She's here for a few months, and yeah, back to wherever you came from.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I've said time and time again that it's so obvious how weak the women's division looks
Mm-hmm.
when Becky and Charlotte aren't there. So
It's anemic.
it is. So it's like you have to do something with her.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think giving her this belt was the right decision. Well, actually, no, that's not true. I don't think giving her the belt with Asuka was the right decision.
Uh-huh.
If you're gonna give Charlotte the belt, fine. But Asuka doesn't need to be a double champion.
Yeah.
So this leads us to kind of the next talking point of this is, for the last couple of months we've been subjected to Nia throwing Lana through a table every week for like 6-8 weeks in a row. And the payoff to this was Charlotte Flair's return. So should there have been a proper payoff to this feud with Lana?
So personal feelings aside towards Lana, I do think there should have been a proper ending to the Lana storyline, and have Lana be involved for the ending of this. Because, like you said, they were doing this for 6 to 8 weeks of Lana being put through a table. That's 2 to 3 months of our lives we're not getting back.
True.
And now it all ends with Charlotte winning the tag belts. Like, unless Pokemon evolution is a thing and Lana turned into Charlotte Flair, like, it's just not the ending that WWE should have gone with.
Goes from first stage to second stage.
Mm-hmm.
What is the third stage from Charlotte Flair?
Trish Stratus.
Yeah, there you go. So I agree that there should have been a payoff to this, but I think the payoff needed to be different.
Yeah.
I think the payoff needed to be, if you were going to take one of the two participants, if you're going to take one of the two participants out of this match, I think the one you needed to take out was Asuka.
Mm-hmm.
And have Nia and Shayna look at it from a strategical point of view and be like, oh, okay, so we're going up against Asuka and Lana. We can beat Lana. So let's take out Asuka and make her scramble to find a tag team partner.
Mm-hmm.
If you were going to have, if the big end goal to this was Charlotte Flair returning, then the team should have been Charlotte and Lana.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Now that you look at it, it would make so much sense because if Shayna and Nia took out Asuka, you could use that as to build Asuka versus one of those two for the Rumble, and you can still have Asuka not be a double champion. You could still have Charlotte come back. All the pieces were there, but they just they took out the wrong piece.
And then a side point to that is with and if that was the case where it was Lana and Charlotte versus Shayna and Nia, I still think the result is the same.
Mm-hmm.
I still think the titles change hands there, and the belts are then on Flair and Lana, and then you can take Flair and Lana and make them the catalyst for reviving this women's tag division. Have them be champions. Mm-hmm. They seem to be pushing a team of Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. Mm-hmm. So there's 2. Reform the Iconics.
Please.
Because they're doing nothing. What was that Billy Kay segment last night? What was the point of that? There wasn't. That's the answer.
Can't for the life of me tell you why.
Poor them. But reform them. You got the Riot Squad on SmackDown, Liv and Ruby.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna separate from there Shayna and Nia and have Shayna go toward the women's title, or possibly even a triple threat between the 3 at the Rumble, cool. You still have 4 teams, and then that could lead to an NXT call-up of Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez.
That would be great.
Suddenly you have a division.
Bam.
Suddenly you have a tag team division. Just like that, with one change. And then you can have Lana and Charlotte drop the belts to whoever. I don't know who it would be. But you'd have them drop the belts, and then you have Charlotte turn heel. Mm. And if they're super high on Lana, because I've read reports that they are high on Lana backstage.
Yeah.
Then make Charlotte put her over.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be something?
It would be. That would be something.
Because it didn't happen for the NXT title. with Rhea.
Oh, God, yeah.
So
Let's just hope
make her,
Charlotte can put someone else over than herself.
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like you could have her put over Lana, and I'm not saying have Lana go for like the Raw Women's title
Mm-hmm.
right away after that, but but from there slowly build her
Mm-hmm.
to like a potential match there.
Yeah, at least like a
Like,
credible mid carder.
yeah, not what she is now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's. I'm disappointed that we got all this time for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like, where are they going to go with Lana from here? It's a fucking mystery at this point. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Um. All right, so let's move into something that we have coming up for WWE programming. This upcoming Friday on SmackDown, they announced last night that Sami Zayn will defend the Intercontinental Championship against Big E. Um, let's just do some simple prediction here. Who do you got, and how do you see the result of this match playing out?
I think Big E will win the Intercontinental title and become a two-time champion. Considering
Really?
it's happening on Christmas Day, I I don't think WWE is gonna pull a Grinch move and have the heel Sami Zayn retain via screwy finish. I think Big E's gonna win good and clean and raise the Christmas spirits.
Through the power of positivity.
Hell yeah.
I didn't even think about the holidays when I came up with my answer for this. Um, I I okay. Let me preface this by saying I really want you to be right. I really want you to be correct. I would love to see him do it here.
No.
I think it's gonna happen at the Rumble, though.
Mm.
I think they're gonna set up for a little bit more of a long-term booking decision, and do Big E challenging Sammy for the title at the Rumble, and that's where the belt changes hands.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see Sammy beating him clean.
Okay.
I see either him getting himself intentionally disqualified, uh, double count out, something similar to what happened on SmackDown, where he like ran around the ring and made Big E chase him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's what I see here. Again, I want you to be right because that would be a great moment
100%.
for Big E to win on a SmackDown. It would give this episode a little bit more weight. But I don't know. I don't see it for SmackDown. I see Sammy still Intercontinental Champion, but not by a clean method. All right, and let's stay on SmackDown. The last what we all thought was going to main event once the WWE title went first last night.
Mm-hmm.
Roman Reigns defended the Universal Championship against Kevin Owens successfully. There was a lot of Jey Uso interference, but I felt they did a really good job of sticking to sticking to the build and how Kevin Owens was built up to be this guy of like, doesn't matter what you do, I'm gonna keep getting back up type of thing. But now we need to look toward the future here.
Mm-hmm.
And who do you see being the next challenger for Roman Reigns?
Yes. 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 Yes.
All
I
right.
do think it's going to be Daniel Bryan, who, most likely. I think there's also a chance of a Kevin Owens rematch, considering all the heavy Jey Uso interference. And but besides that, I don't think there's anybody else on the SmackDown roster that is credible enough to challenge Roman and conceivably beat him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think realistically they'll probably do a Kevin Owens rematch because I would want Daniel Bryan to be in the Rumble match.
Yeah, that'd be cool to have D. Bryan there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I agree that they're going to do a Kevin Owens rematch, but I don't think it's going to happen at the Royal Rumble. I actually think it's going to happen on a SmackDown.
Oh, okay.
Not not this upcoming. Um, I think I think the first SmackDown of 2021 they issue in the new year with KO versus Roman Reigns match, and I think it's going to be inside of a steel cage to keep all interference out.
Okay.
And that would be a different feel to all the matches they've had prior so far, because that eliminates Jey Uso interference.
Mm-hmm.
But my answer, um, so I was looking at this last night, and I was toying with like 3, 4 different possibilities,
Mm-hmm.
but then I thought about it, and I was like, huh, what about Jimmy Uso?
Oh.
Jimmy comes back. I watched a interview with Jimmy Uso. Um, well, there you have it. There's a link. I guess that's happening. Um, that's cool. I'm glad I'm right. Um, anyway, I watched an interview with Jey Uso that Jay said that Jimmy would be back around January, February.
Oh, okay.
Now, he might be being very vague to not let anything on with the storyline, but I can see Jimmy returning and he kind of confronting Kevin Owens and Jay, not liking what they've been doing, which leads to Jimmy versus Jay on SmackDown, where if Jimmy wins, he gets to face Roman at the Rumble, which leads to inner turmoil between the brothers and Roman telling Jay that he's got to take out Jimmy and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That ultimately leads to Jimmy Uso joining the family, because I think we all know that's coming.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a matter of when. And I think he joins them after that match, and that sets up heel Usos versus Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins for the SmackDown titles
Mm-hmm.
at Mania.
I'm 100% behind that idea of the Usos versus the Street Profits.
Yes. I thought about it. I was like, God, I would love to see that. So I think the first challenger will be Jimmy Uso. If he's healthy.
Mm-hmm. If he's healthy.
If he's not healthy, I like where you're going with that. I like the idea of Daniel Bryan being the next challenger.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we've talked about where Roman's going, let's get to where Kevin Owens
Mm-hmm.
is going. Where do you see him going from here after this?
So, like as I mentioned, in the short run, maybe there will be a rematch with Roman. Well, actually, there will be a rematch with Roman, as we just saw. But as for the long run, for the road to WrestleMania, I think, and I would love for this to happen. I would love for face Kevin Owens to feud with heel Sami Zayn.
Ooh.
Whether or not that's for the Intercontinental Championship, I'm fine if it is or if it's not. But I think this will ties into what I think about Big E winning the belt. And Biggie wins the belt on Christmas Day, and then if you want, maybe like Sammy wins it back at the Rumble, and then like after the Rumble, that's when we start building up the feud between Sammy and KO, with Sammy being his braggadocious self, being like, "Oh, look at me, I'm a champion, but you're not, Kevin. What's the deal with that?" And then Kevin just maybe like provides a distraction to Sami Zayn, and Big E wins the belt back, becoming a 3-time champion. And then you have Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens, WrestleMania. Give them 20 minutes and just be five
Yeah,
stars.
yeah. I am all for that. I'm on record saying that one of my, if not my favorite independent match of all time was El Generico, Kevin Steen, Ring of Honor, Ladder War. So good. Um, so yeah, I'm all for that. Trust me, that'd be awesome.
I would love
Because that
for
because that
Kevin
would be a
Owens.
completely that'd be a completely different dynamic from when they first feuded in NXT, because the roles would be reversed.
I'd also love for part of the storyline, like Kevin Owens is like trying to bring back the old Sammy, like that's his motivation for the feud. And then Sammy's is like, "You cost me the IC belt. I'm gonna kick your ass at Mania."
Yeah, it'd be sweet. God knows, like I think we're all now clamoring for face Sami Zayn.
Oh, the chosen one who fell to the bookings of WWE.
I know. He had so much going for him. Injuries also haven't helped him either.
That's true.
But yeah, that's neither here nor there. So my thing is, so it starts with this now advertised steel cage match. KO still loses here. But he's obsessed. He starts turning into prize fighter KO from here, showing little glimpses of it, but not fully there yet. And he says, the only way I can get back at Roman now is by winning the Royal Rumble.
Oh.
And he goes into the Royal Rumble, but he doesn't win.
Oh, okay. A twist, right?
He gets eliminated by Daniel Bryan.
Ooh.
And then we set up heel Kevin Owens versus face Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania.
Oh. Oh, so Daniel Bryan wouldn't be winning the Rumble then?
No.
Oh, okay. We'll save your pick for him.
He would. It would be like I feel like I don't know who the other two would be, but it would be two others, and then KO and Bryan in the final four. And then Bryan gets KO first, and then that's when he like loses it, because that's like it's like
Shawn Michaels?
The way I was thinking about it. You remember that? What I forget what Rumble it was. It was the Rumble where Shawn Michaels was so obsessed with winning the Rumble to get back to getting to the Undertaker.
I remember now. It was 2010.
Okay, so that Rumble, it's like that emotion where like he fights so hard through the match. KO does. Just to ultimately fall just short of the end goal. And that snaps him. And he gets back into the ring, and then old heel, ruthless, like NXT KO comes back and just destroys Daniel Bryan.
Oof.
And then we can get a proper finish with the final two, whoever they end up being. But that sets up Bryan Owens. No Shane this time. No Sami Zayn this time. Just one-on-one. Bryan Owens. Biggest stage. WrestleMania.
What was I going to say to that? Yeah, because the best way to get heel heat is to eliminate Daniel Bryan from Royal Rumble.
Dude, so true. Who eliminated him that one year everybody wanted him to win? 2014?
I think it was Bray, but everybody was too mad at WWE to really give Bray that heat.
Yeah. So it's like you eliminate Brian, especially if you eliminated Brian at the end,
Mm,
like the last four. You and he would end up being the last three, and he just comes back and ruins that. That is immediate, like fuck you, Kevin.
exactly.
So it immediately works.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah. Um, so that's our first pilot episode. Leave a comment below, like us on social media platforms when we make them. Obviously, this is a pilot episode.
Mm-hmm.
All feedback is welcome, and we appreciate y'all taking the time to watch. Be sure to tune into Monday Night Raw tonight, 8/7 Central, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Um, and we will be back on Tuesday,
Yeah, tomorrow.
tomorrow, for Raw reactions. So hope you can join us then. Until then, I'm Drake.
On the Wigman.
All right. We'll see you next time.